would like to point out that for me this is a very, very, very strange experience. Frankly, I don't know what I'm doing here. Frankly, I don't know what you are doing here. Which one gets my picture, the upper one or the lower one?
This one, right
Yeah.
there.
I would like, if it were possible, a little bit lower and a little bit like this. Is this possible?
Sure. And let's move that light right there, please.
And the upper light also.
Is his mic set? It's all set? Good.
Do I talk directly into the mic or this way or this way? It doesn't get too loud or too low?
He needs a little powder on his nose. And let's try that light over there, please.
If you could turn it a little bit up towards the face. It looks more spooky. Thank you. You see, this is a strange thing about me. Now, I want to be known for something that I consider good, and I don't know what it is. I don't want to sit here and wait for death. I have to take the risk. I do something. So I let my subconscious in some way taking over, knowing full well the subconscious is nothing else but expertise that you become unaware of.
My friends, I'm here tonight to show you the way. I'm here tonight to share a great truth with you. I'm here tonight to dehypnotize you, to free you from a deadly collective obsession. I'm a voice for those who dare not speak. I'm a cry for hearts that suffer in silence. And I'm here tonight to tell you what needs to be told.
I feel
an itch for public service.
And I've got to scratch it. So listen to me with your mouth wide open and try to profit by what you hear.
Want to buy some illusions, slightly used, second hand. They were lovely illusions, reaching high, built on sand. They had a touch of paradise, a spell you can't explain. For in this crazy paradise, you are in love with pain. Want to buy some illusions, slightly used, almost new. Such romantic illusions, and they're all about you. I'll sell them all for a penny. They make pretty souvenirs. Take my lovely illusions, some for laughs, some for tears.
I'd never seen anything like it.
You couldn't interpret it, but it was forceful and it compelled you. And
you just couldn't take your eyes off him, you know.
And it had a kind of a hypnotic quality.
We're saying remarkable things.
In the good hospitals, they let you die. In the bad hospitals, they kill you.
I detest everything I stand for. To be Brother Theodore is no bed of roses.
Laid up in the long black boxes, alive and thrust down into the...
Life is a fatal disease. From hour to hour, we ripen and ripen and ripen and ripen and ripen.
Yellow and fell over her temples like sauerkraut. Her face was sweaty like a chunk of rancid pork.
And that's why I feel the best thing is not to be born. But who is as lucky as that?
He was mesmerizing. John, I had it to him. It was a one-man show. You know,
A one-man performance is a harrowing experience, not only for the audience, but for the performer too. Before I get on stage, my heart, my pulse beat fast, my stomach aches, I sweat all over, and when I think of my audience, I throw up. So if you keep on barking and bellowing indiscriminately at each of my sentences, if anything and everything I do or say is automatically, without rhyme or reason, greeted with idiot laughter, we'll get absolutely nowhere.
I've never seen anybody who could hold an audience that much in thrall.
There was a sense of danger. It was dark.
Like the cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
And you began to think, this might be a madman who might be on the brink, and something awful might happen in the next minute.
Only what we have lost forever, we possess forever. Only where there are graves are there resurrections. Only when we have drunk from the river of darkness shall we truly see. Only when our legs have rotted up shall we truly dance. All afternoon I was scared stiff that I was going to outnumber you. In response to a widespread lack of interest in my teachings,
I have consented not to speak at Madison Square Garden tonight.
I started my career as an uplifter exactly 34 years ago, 29 years ago,
Exactly 45 years ago,
and became an overnight flop. The situation has deteriorated ever since. I've passed from comparative obscurity.
I passed from comparative obscurity to total oblivion.
Recognition always comes tomorrow.
The minute you address an audience, they become deeply involved with who's the real guy up there? Is this the real guy? Am I looking at the real guy? And the more you can convince them that you really are this extreme individual, then you've got something very interesting going on with the audience. As far as I knew, that had not happened before Theodore.
Up to now, your life has been a long, dim twilight trance, interrupted by occasional fits of panic and confused activity.
The vital spark, the zest of life. It's missing.
Is missing.
It's missing.
Let me be your Dexedrine. Let me direct you and quicken you. Let me instruct and exhort you. Let me pump purpose into your bloodless veins. Hope into your hopeless heart. Let me be your sword.
Let me be your sword.
Let me be your flame. Let me be your Valentine.
He was always just this side of real. I didn't know how much of it was an act.
Whether the accent was even real or it was put on.
Oh, is he kidding?
Is that something he really believes?
I really wasn't sure what I was seeing.
And that was part of the fascination.
What you have there is a proud freak.
Whatever I will say or might say today or in the future is that I don't feel that I have anything to say to the world that not 2 million intelligent New Yorkers, taxi cab drivers included, can say as well as I do.
I had intended to speak tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I had intended to speak tonight on pea green pimpers. I felt like some right to do so, having had so many myself. And over there in Europe, it was this very subject which earned me my reputation as a top conversationalist and fiery orator.
No matter when or where I spoke in those days, The crowd would storm the platform, knocking each other down, simply to get near me and tighten my suspenders. Mothers would hold up their unborn brats and shout for a blessing. Duchesses would laugh frilly and dance like dervishes. Princesses would roll on the ground and beseech me for strictly personal treatment. Husky men would turn aside to hide their tears, and wherever I went, the sick in heart, same-day cleaners, women's clubs, horseflies would follow me in a whirlwind of ecstasy and settle down on my shoulders.
He was like out of nowhere. What was this?
It was behavior, and it was strange and singular.
There was no way to put a label on it. A monologist doesn't do it justice.
His art is hard to categorize. It's scary and unnerving and hysterically funny. A lot of times just boring.
Brother Theodore had his own rhythm, his own ideas. I mean, if you talk about, Miles Davis or Stravinsky, someone who absolutely knows the rules and knows the rules well enough to step away.
Behind it all was not just performance, but something more. And you want to call it a background, a history, a sadness, an insanity, all that stuff,
Creatures of twilight and illusion, we drift toward our unknown ends. And that's why I feel the best thing is not to be born. But who is as lucky as that? To whom does it happen? Not to one among millions and millions of people. Ladies and gentlemen, in these days of darkness and doubt, in these days of crisis and confusion, what the world needs is a truly great soul. I am that soul. I'm a cosmodynamic personality walking through life in beauty and eternal youth. I'm in the prime of my senility. Here, on this stage, I probably look like a pile of mud, but that's only because stage lighting is still in its infancy.
It was so convincingly mad.
Brother Theodore is mad. That's what I basically and fundamentally am. Mad, 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 mad.
He could say anything on the stage, and as long as he had the vitality of the character that he was doing, the madman, and he was very good at that. He was very, very good at that.
His use of language was so incredible that
he did some of Beers, Poe, and he tried to take some of Perelman. I'm an editor, he says. I take things from everywhere and I rearrange it a little bit, and that's what he did.
He instilled his own being into his own style. I think that changes it. Artists do that all the time.
His material was so well written. He would send me notes on what he wanted to do. I'd call him up and I go, what do you want to do on the show next time you're on? And he goes, I'll send you. And those pieces were all written out, word for word, perfectly. You sense that it was the first time he was doing it.
He did the same show every weekend for like 20, 30 years.
Week after week after week after week for the last 30, 40 years.
Even if he's done this before, this seems to be the night where he's going over. He's out of control.
Come on, folks. Let's have some real, honest to goodness, old-fashioned rejoicing here, huh? Come on. Rat-a-tay, rat-a-tay, rat-a-tay,
You can tell this man has been through serious angst in his life. He's had many failures and disappointments in his life, but he's managed to make this hilarious version of his life.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have traveled far and wide, here and abroad, but I've never seen anything remotely as revolting as my show.
The shock value wasn't some kind of like punk or beat or anything like that, but going way back to the original shocker guys from, you know, Salvador Dali.
Sometimes I'm called the Black Pope of the Church of Satan, but frankly, I feel more like Winnie the Pooh.
It's putting out there the truth as you see it, and there's no higher way to do art.
A change has come over the world like a cloud. Dark thoughts are born.
Dark deeds ripen in the midst of its vapors. The eye of God no longer shines on us. Where once it shone, there is nothing now but an empty, burned out socket. God is dead. But the devil is not. He created you in his own image. He runs the show. Our graveyards are riddled with corpses. Our mortality rate is 100%.
Did you say you have a poem you want to share?
I learned it in Germany when I was 12 years old. Like you would remember Einem in a Minkmann, Klinklang, Use, Puse, Wakadi, Eier, Bayer, Weg. You might remember that also. Can you do me a great favor? Will you please pretend to listen to me?
Sure.
Es gibt zwei Sorten Ratten, die Hungrigen und die Satten. Die Satten bleiben vergnügt zu Haus. Die Hungrigen aber wandern aus. Sie wandern viel tausend Meilen, ganz ohne Rasten und Weilen, geradeaus.
All your life up to that point, you had lived with a silver spoon in your mouth, so to speak?
With a golden spoon in my mouth.
Golden spoon?
Yes.
You were that wealthy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not I, my family.
The family.
Yes.
They produced about 20 or so different fashion magazines, maybe 30 different fashion magazines that went throughout Europe. And it was all women's fashions.
I lived in Germany before Hitler came to power, and I was, at that time, the son and grandson of very, very wealthy people.
All the great people of the time came to visit them in their mansion.
Einstein was a frequent guest in Theodore's parents' house. And Einstein and Theodore played chess together.
Einstein was a very close friend of my parents, especially a very close friend of my mother for about 25 years. And he lived in our home in Düsseldorf for 3 months as our house guest.
The stories he would tell me about Einstein is that Einstein had an affair with his mother.
He said 27 years.
I wanted to say that I was the son of two large fortunes, very, very rich. If somebody asked me, you want to be dead forever and ever and ever, you want to live your life all over again, I would say, no, dead forever, because the ratio of my happiness towards my unhappiness is probably 99 to 1%.
I was a very unhappy man at the time, and often after nightfall I would stroll about, all alone, lost in thought, through those bizarre and melancholy quarters. They're always by yourself, Theodore. You shouldn't be alone so much.
Here's a guy who was raised, knowing classical Greek and Latin, who spoke French and German and English as well, who had an experience as a top chess player, who hung out in Paris in the 20s, Berlin in the 20s.
He spoke of his playboy years in Berlin, riding motorcycles and sitting in cafes and playing chess.
Yes, I was a playboy. I intended to be a playboy. But alas, my parents and my entire family were annihilated. I was in the concentration camp. And when I came to the United States, I was a playboy no more.
He was a guy who was brought up to be rich. And then he wasn't.
So under normal conditions, Theodore would be one of the richest men in the world if there had been no Second World War. Isn't that amazing?
He and I once went to see The Blue Angel. We left the theater after it was over with, and it was the first time I ever saw him cry. But he says, I'll never forget, Oliver, I was walking with my girlfriend arm in arm, coming out of The Blue Angel, and one Hitler Youth came to me with a leaflet, and I just said, get out of there, get away from me, get out. But he says, I treated him like he was a mosquito.
He failed to recognize there was any threat. Well, he thought he was not a Jew, but a German.
From what he said, he was one of the first, to go to Dachau, and I think it was before they had the extermination. He said when he was being signed into Dachau, the person who was signing him in was somebody from his high school class.
Blessed are those who do not know and cannot think. I envy you folks, I honestly do. I would rather be a contented pinworm than a tormented brother Theodore. But I'm afraid I have no choice in the matter. I see too deep.
I see too deep.
I see too much.
I see too much.
I
have gazed into the abyss, and the abyss has gazed into me. And neither of us liked what we saw.
In the concentration camp, all your time you spend to see that you will not be killed in 2 seconds. You had no time.
A physician would say, who are you? He says, I'm a doctor. And the Nazi would come and shoot him in the head. He says, you abortionist. And the next guy would say, who are you? He says, I'm a lawyer. You shyster. He'd shoot him in the head. And they came up to Theodore and said, who are you? The Theodore said, I'm swine, I'm dirt, I'm filth. The guy says, good, you live.
So he had this kind of dramatic sense in him like that, and that saved him either from getting beaten up or worse at that point.
He had to tell them exactly what they wanted to hear.
A Nazi came and said, now you die. And I said, don't you see I'm working for the German fatherland here? Du Schweinehund, halt dein Maul! He stopped for a second and shot the next two and let me live. We think we act, but we are always acted upon. We think, but our thoughts are always imposed on us. We are driven by urges and passions we do not choose or understand. An alien, incomprehensible power injects them into our heart without asking for our consent. An alien, incomprehensible power pulls our strings. We are puppets. We are puppets in the hands of an insane puppeteer.
There was like a window of about a month or two where the Nazis were saying, if you have wealth, if you have property, and you sign it over to us, we will let you go. So one afternoon, they took him, an officer came over and said, come with me, and they took him to an office.
Here, sign it. We all did. You are the last. Come on, sign it. Right here, sign it.
It's really startling to read these because they're very brief, where they say that they relinquish any claims that they might have.
Einstein got us the affidavits of support. Einstein did, but it was too late for my parents. They perished, but I came to the United States.
Once he came to the States, he never looked to Einstein for help. And he's used to having wealth and luxury. Now he doesn't have anything. He doesn't speak English.
They didn't want all the refugees being in one place, so they sent him to San Francisco.
And imagine what that did. First of all the horrors of being in that Nazi camp, the whole disruption of the life.
And if Hitler had not come to power, I would today probably be a 100-fold millionaire. And I would certainly not have been a performer.
When he was in Germany, he was, you know, I guess we would call it philandering. You know, he would have affairs, that's all. He wasn't looking for any meaningful relationship until he met Lisa, who apparently really captivated him completely, and he married her at a very young age, both of them.
Would have been 1938 that they were married. He was in his mid-30s and she was like 16 years old, and then found Theodore again. They reunited.
My loving, beautiful, sweet, darling, intelligent, inexperienced, very young wife. My wife supported me for about 2 years. I was a lapdog, a janitor at Stanford University. I lived with 50 old men who had failed in life and became janitors and got the minimum salary.
I can't even imagine. I mean, it's like you've lost your whole identity of who you were. I frankly don't know how he managed.
The idea of suddenly being nothing and nobody, being this, as he called it, this dirty janitor who nobody bothers looking at.
There's this sense of this long arc of history, and what a history in this one man, and then this self-creation.
From a position of what would have to have been a really dark place and really not knowing what's next, to kind of reinvent himself like that.
He was what the Germans, the Europeans call a Luftmensch, a man made out of air, who's self-invented and who kind of lives on imagination, and he was the ultimate Luftmensch.
It so happened that I had a very complex and very diversified life. There was one element that saved me from total despair. I was a good chess player.
Well, chess has saved a lot of lives. I think it gave him much relief. But to work out any kind of plan and to see it realized. You know, life doesn't allow us to do that so well, but the chessboard can.
I didn't know what else to do, you know. I said to myself, now what? And I said, what am I going to do? What did I do in Europe that I liked? The theater. This would interest me in in a dark, strange, otherworldly way. And I said, what if I write my own script and do it all by myself? And this is what I eventually did.
In 1947, what were people thinking about that act, you know?
What I was looking at was a guy who was leapfrogging backward into time, past the avant-garde, past the beat generation, which is who kind of adopted him and embraced him originally, but really in going back to like Weimar, cabaret stuff.
That history, his whole history was with him. East Berlin in the 20s, living under the Nazis, the early years in Hollywood, all that history was in his performance somehow.
Theodore is beginning with a base of unspeakable terror and turning it into comedy.
I remember Lenny Bruce standing on the top step with me, watching him perform and saying, when is he going to say something about the Nazis?
You know, and Lenny Bruce told him he should talk about the Holocaust more. And Theodore said, you should clean up your mouth more.
I don't blame you. I blame myself. I should have known better. One shouldn't try to sell roses in a fish market because of your boorish behavior, because of your rudeness, because of your tactlessness, because of your obvious lack of understanding. The German anthem will be omitted tonight, and that's final.
Well, Theodore was genuinely a different person than all of us, you know, middle class, college educated Americans. He wasn't American.
Americans are different, not quite so emotional. As an audience, more conservative, more Shakespearean-minded, less pimple-conscious, and that's probably.
And there's one advantage of him being a stranger from Germany. He comes so he can see America with fresh eyes.
To me, or at least my generation, he captured this neurosis thing in the 50s.
I mean, in the 50s, you believed everything anybody told you, right?
We're going to create a new society, and Theodore was saying, forget it. You know?
You want help? Do you have it? You long for love. Do you have it? You yearn for peace. Do you have it? Your way of life, my friends, your way of life has failed you time and again. Might it not be wise to try another way? My way, the Lala Bhagavan Shri Ukapadaya way. I don't eat. I inhale the light of the sun and the beams of the moon and the breath of the wind. I live on the smell of daffodils.
Anybody who has a gift of being reasonably content is maybe also reasonably stupid. Our passions are in our brain, not in our heart.
What about your relationship with your wife?
Good question. The strangeness of life. She was just an incredibly warm, intelligent, glorious young woman. Why she selected me, I don't know.
His life had been so altered by what had happened, marital situation.
Years and years of marriage prepared me for years and years of divorce. Divorce American style. We parted friends. She got the house. She got the car. She got the furniture. She got the savings account. She got the stocks and bonds. I got custody of the cat.
He never got in touch with his child for 40 or 50 years till the son got in touch with him.
I'm interested in my son. Where's my son? I said, where is my son? Stop paying attention. Where is my son?
He left our family when I was 3.
He just didn't know how to be a father. How would he know? He didn't have one really.
So in all that time, I had no idea who he was other than seeing him occasionally on television.
He got a letter from his son, and he didn't know, and he chose to ignore it. He presumed that Tom, his son, had ulterior motives, because everyone in Theodore's world had some ulterior motive, because everyone wanted something from him.
They're after me. The John Birches, the Black Panthers, the CIA, the Jews and Great Britain are after me. They want to bump me off. They want to fix my wagon.
When I first met him, when I was, in my 40s, not having seen him for 40 some odd years.
Hi, Dad.
Theodore called me up. I don't know what to do, Fred. My son is coming this afternoon. He was about 40. So I said, well, maybe you could take him to the circus and get him a balloon. That's very funny. Yes, indeed. Very funny.
And it was really interesting because I didn't find Brother Theodore. I found my father, Theodore.
I know we hadn't had many drinks, but we were under the influence of that certain, almost imperceptible sort of intoxication that makes us hear some words as if from afar. The kind of intoxication brought about sometimes by the hours of night, when we are wrapped up in cigarette smoke and women's laughter.
I'm sure it has come up that he just loved young girls, and he always had a little young thing as his paramour.
But women, I'm telling you something, women would melt.
Well, he was what they used to call a charmer.
Could be extremely charming.
He just had this charisma.
No, I thought charming was more, Cary Grant or something like that. I didn't think it was this, brooding, beetle-browed, ranting maniac. Theodore was amazingly successful with women.
A girl sits on my lap and kisses and caresses me.
He shows up one night at a show of mine with 2 girls on each arm, 2 beautiful young women. And now another piece of information comes into me about Theodore, which is somehow this guy who looks like a troll has got beautiful women who follow him around, and I was to find out much later that he dated these women, that he had girlfriends, and it wasn't just like some kind of act or something.
Where are the broads? Where are the chicks? Where are the dames who can stand beside a Beethoven, or a Dostoevsky, or a Michelangelo, or a Shakespeare, or a Brother Theodore? Where are they? Show them to me.
I have to give him credit for that. That was his existence, even like a form of phallic narcissism, meaning that if I give this good show, afterwards maybe a woman will come to see me afterwards.
Oh, Lord, he had so many weird experiences. I was his procurer in a way. I was asked to suggest if any women came backstage to see him, to select the ones I would say, yeah, why don't you hang around, you know? He trusted my judgment, you know.
He told me about a girlfriend he had who was 50 years younger than him.
He'd say they're looking at somebody that could be their great-grandfather.
At least one of my girlfriends that I know of, after we broke up, went out with him for a while.
The fingers of the young woman glide through my hair.
I had no idea what his real age was. I have to tell you, I thought he was like 50s, in his 50s. I was still in my 20s. I was amazed to find out that, you know, he was born in 1906. I nearly like fainted.
He had a girlfriend into his 90s.
As he flatteringly told me, I was the oldest girlfriend he'd ever had.
He said, never underestimate the allure of the older man.
There was the fact that he had a better love life than I had, which I found absolutely infuriating.
I'll never forget what he said. He said, I'd give anything to have the sex drive I had when I was 85.
Is she never going to molest me? Is she never going to invade my bed and abuse me carnally?
I think he was interested in sex, but I think the end of his life had shifted to emotional need more than sexual need.
He was very much concerned about losing his teeth. That meant he wasn't so aggressive anymore. You know, if you can't put a bite into a person, you're helpless, you're impotent, you can't do anything, you know. To lose its teeth is to be emasculated, to be raped.
And in a smile of maiden modesty, her teeth revealed themselves to me. The moving of a curtain, the closing of a door. Liselotte Bindel had left the room, but my mind still clung to the image of her teeth. Not one speck on their surface, not one shadow on their enamel had escaped me. They had burned themselves into my memory. They had bitten themselves into my brain. They were small, narrow and pointed, cold and capricious. They glistened like rusty nails in the moon. Those teeth, those glittering teeth, those luring, quivering, beckoning, promising pearls of teeth. They were my destiny. Her teeth. Her teeth. Her teeth. I'll rip them out.
To have someone's teeth is to regain their youth, their power.
I'm here to crush the powers of evil. And by the grace of Providence, I have in my possession the formula that will do it. I have been toiling over this formula. I have been slaving over this formula all night until the wee hours of the morning. Because I love you. Because I'm inordinately fond of your guts.
It was interesting how he actually promoted friendships and relationships very differently.
I need fellow crusaders. I need you, my friends, with your splendid intellects. The world needs you. Your loved ones need you. Won't you help me? Help you, help them? I can't do it alone, my friends. I'm not a reincarnated Joan of Arc or something. I'm just plain folks.
Because when I say these things on stage, I overdo it in order to make it interesting for the audience, of course. People make the mistakes. They say, oh, I don't want to meet that guy. He's obviously nuts. He's obviously, he belongs into a straitjacket. In my personal life, I'm sometimes an unbearable bore.
And when you see him as an apartment, he's pleasant and so gentle. He's like, nothing at all like you'd see on stage.
He was so unlike anyone else in my life, anyone else that I knew.
I didn't realize what I had stepped into, which was a complex world of needs and abilities that he has.
And I remember going up to his place and doing things and helping him with stuff and
buying groceries or getting laundry or
doing his taxes and
change the light bulbs.
fixing the faucet.
Did I ever go shopping for him once or twice? I may have.
People, didn't mind doing it because he was just such a great guy. We was like, what the heck? It's for Thea.
It's a fascinating intellectual person.
People think it is more exciting to have a cup of coffee with Theodore than being raped by a gorilla.
he would want me to eat with him. Whenever I made food for him, I almost always made, sometimes broccoli, but peas were dominant. I gave him 6 marijuana brownies and said, eat half of one, see how it is. So he eats 6. He just pops them one after the other and trips. If he had eaten 1 brownie, it would have been normal. It would have enjoyed it. No more brownies, please. I will never want a brownie again.
I recovered from this poisoning after many, many months. The others had long since been buried. There was nothing that could have been done for them, I was told. When help arrived, they were dead.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to be critical, but 99% of all our rats are promiscuous. They do exactly as they please. And if you try to stop them, they run away and do it somewhere else. Frankly, I can't figure out what they've seen each other. I don't go for rats. Maybe I've met the right one yet. Rats can be trained, of course, but after we have spent years and years of training one, all you've got is a trained rat. Is that what you want? Is that what you went to college for? A trained rat?
I mean, he was always waiting for his big break.
Hoping for a big break.
He was always on the brink of making it, big time.
You know what really embittered him? That story about the don't drink the water. Woody Allen's Don't Drink the Water.
Oh well, I was in a Broadway play. It was Woody Allen's first Broadway play. It was called Don't Drink the Water, and Brother Theodore is playing the evil commissar.
Woody Allen had gotten in the part.
I mentioned his name as someone who seemed to me right for the part of the secret policeman.
Theodore was terrific.
There were nights, I remember, that everybody thought he was brilliant, and then the next night he'd lose it completely. You'd get none of it. They fired him eventually because his performances were wildly inconsistent.
Yeah, I think they might have been, he would probably, eat the sceneries.
He really wanted one more chance to make it.
Forgive me, Master. I failed! I see myself as a failure so colossal, so consistent, and so spectacular that it dwarfs and outshines the most fabulous successes of others.
His great ambition and his great anger was that he never ever got into the mainstream of horror movies.
How much longer must I wait? And wait and wait, and dream and plot,
How much longer? Until the cows come home to roost?
Well, I did this movie, The Burbs, at Universal, and it was a black comedy. We ultimately decided on Theodore because there was just something ineffably weird about him. It would be a shame if The Burbs is the most popular or widely seen thing that he ever did, which it may be.
He still thought, even in his 80s, that his career soon would begin, the big career.
Yeah, he was hopeful. He wanted celebrity. Well, it was celebrity. He wanted to be famous.
Yet I grow impatient. We must speed the next move toward placing me on the throne of the world.
I think there are probably a lot of talents in this country that for whom the timing is simply wrong.
And we booked on Brother Theodore. We booked on people to annoy stars. And this guy was annoying. He's one of our most requested. He was just a weird man from New York.
I can't stand it anymore. This is enough. Out! Get him out! Get him out! I'll never come back.
The old man.
What are you doing, man? I tell you.
Get your hands off me, baby.
No. You know what? What?
His flyer's open.
Speed is important, but success is imperative.
He couldn't do what was necessary to be a success in this culture. It was against everything in his nature, yeah?
He wanted success, but had a fear of it at the same time.
This is my problem. I'm an excellent swimmer, and I never drown in the middle of the stream. I always drown in the last 2 inches of the stream, just when my fingers are about to touch the saving shore, the shore of paradise, the shores of success. Just then, down I go into the nothingness I came from.
If he was absorbed into the big entertainment industry, he would have been lost, I think.
Let me tell you, I can detect symptoms of idiocy in the audience. I think, ladies and gentlemen, I honestly think you better get sterilized, or we are headed for a moronic future. It is obvious you haven't the vaguest idea of what I'm talking about, and that fills me with pride and satisfaction. The place is lousy with juvenile delinquents, hoodlums, unfit mothers, anti-Theodorians, criminally insane nose-picker types. I've been aware of your presence here now for quite a while, and I've stopped feeling benevolent about you. If you go on misbehaving, if you go on laughing when you should cry, and crying when you should laugh, I'll have you all thrown out in the street and have the dogs pee on you.
I'll never forget, Theodore and I went to this group of dynamically intelligent, creative, energized people, that maybe there's going to be a chance here for me to really get started. And one of them came up and said, here's our problem, Theodore. You are 5 pennies, and we must find a way to make you a nickel. You don't have a slot. You're kind of a part stand-up comic, part of a solo performer, part actor, part philosopher, part this, part that, part...
That's the essence of it. Everyone wants to change you into something that will fit you, but the wonderful thing was, and what's supposed to be wonderful about America, is that you can be a nut, or you can be different, and you can still do it. You just won't get famous.
A true one-man performance. I'm a janitor here. Someone else might say, oh, you should have seen him when he was 45. You know, he was more vigorous and more of this. Not so. Not so, because I can be still enormously vigorous. Sie klimmen wohl über die Höhen, sie schwimmen wohl durch die Seen. Gar mancher ersäuft oder bricht das Genick. Die Lebenden lassen die Toten zurück. Es haben diese Käuze gar fürchterliche Schnäuze. Sie tragen die Köpfe geschoren, egal, ganz radikal, ganz rattenkahl.
I think he was incredibly, I don't even like that word successful, but look at the impact he's had on so many people.
I mean, he did David Letterman appearances, and when you're making 6 million people laugh and think, you're not just on the fringe as a whack job.
Yes, I indeed do lecture at colleges, high schools, kindergartens. The accent is on youth. The boys of today are the mothers of tomorrow.
He was a very pure artist. He would never compromise in any way.
And he has a kind of integrity about it which resonates, which is so unusual these days, to see comedians with integrity.
True and genuine wit of the Dorothy Parker and Brother Theodore sort is much harder to come by and infinitely more valuable as a result.
Death to the young. Death to the strong. Death to the happy. Long live death.
I mean, he was afraid of dying, but he looked forward to death.
Cut your throat, Theodore. Cut it now before it's too late. Before your thoughts turn into worms and devour your brain. Cut your throat.
Towards the end, he was very, very depressed. But then when he got to be suicidal, he said, tell me, Julian, can you buy medicines for me? I can poison myself.
Well, he had me call the Hemlock Society in New York for him. At that point, he was really down in general on life. And he, you know, talking about suicide, jumping out of his window, but being afraid that he would only hurt himself. He was only, you know, on the second floor. So he might survive, so he couldn't do that.
Then he'd say, you know, I heard carbon monoxide can kill you. If you get a car, there's carbon monoxide in the car. He says, but then it has to be in a garage. I would have to buy a house that has the garage. Where would I find the money to buy a house with a garage in it, to put the car in, you know? But here he's talking with great seriousness about this.
He never wanted to kill himself with sleeping pills because the thing is they can pump your stomach and you know, your brain is gone and you're drooling, right?
Yeah, although he would never have killed himself.
As long as there is death, there is hope. All our great spiritual leaders are dead. Moses is dead. Muhammad is dead. Buddha is dead. And I'm not feeling so hot myself.
So we would have like endless discussions on whether there was a God or not.
How could out of such a boisterous mood, out of this atmosphere of gypsy music, cakewalk and champagne, emerge a serious discussion on supernatural things?
He wished that he could believe in it, but he was too intelligent to believe in it.
Dear God, if you exist, help me. And if you don't exist, help me anyway. Amen.
You know, constantly there is no God. A good, strong atheist performer.
An evil mind. That's my only consolation. Think evil, do evil, be evil, and the current of evil will carry you to the shores of paradise.
I don't know if he was a devout atheist.
Well, the fear is to become nothingness. I don't believe in life after death, unfortunately. I cannot believe in reincarnation, unfortunately. You cannot believe because somebody tells you to believe. We could talk about that for hours, and we would both be right and both be wrong. And now comes a surprise, a strange surprise, a movie surprise.
Christ visited him in his apartment towards the end.
He said he had an experience of Jesus appearing to him in this dream. And he said he felt so peaceful. You know, I wish I could feel that way all the time.
Absolutely, he said it was not a dream.
Doesn't surprise me. You know, everything was iconic for him.
Dear God, what have I done with my life? Dear God, what have I done with my life? What have I done with my life? Dear God, who died on the cross for my sins, what have I done with my life?
Initially, the way that he did it was absolutely truthful, and it was heartbreaking. And later, he changed, he reinterpreted the way that he did it, and he did it as if he were angry at God.
Dear God, who died on the cross for my sins, what have I done with my life?
He would always ask, like, he had this sort of question that, like, when you die, who are you? Like, are you the person you were when you were 86, or, you know, the age when you died, or are you the person when you were young? It's like he told me he had a vision of, you know, he was lying in bed and, you know, not feeling well, and his younger self came to him and said, don't worry, you are I. And, you know, he was sort of consoled by that.
It is my sincere wish that immediately after my death, my head be severed from my body and that it be replaced by a bouquet of broccoli. It's an artist in me.
I adore him. I adore Brother Theodore.
I just thought he was a wonderful guy. He was so eager to please.
And am I grateful that I've discovered him? It was a huge enrichment.
There is no room in ordinary society for extraordinary people.
I miss him terribly.
I'm a million light years ahead of my time.
I absorbed him.
I'm a somebody in a century of nobodies.
You know, there was nothing quite like it.
I've always known it. And now I've said it, and now you know it too.
I'll miss him because he's a disappearing breed.
I don't know what the reality about Brother Theodore is, and I have a strange suspicion that nobody did, including Brother Theodore.
Ganz radikal, ganz radikal. Die radikale Rotte weiß nichts von einem Gott. Sie hat kein Gut, sie hat kein Geld und wünscht das Neue zu teilen, die Welt. So eine wilde Ratze, die fürchtet nicht Hölle noch Katze. Sie hat kein Gut, sie hat kein Geld und wünscht das Neue zu teilen, die Welt. The end.
The end?
It's finished.
Yeah, I've got another tape. I'll get another tape. I have another one. Another tape.
Yeah, but I've nothing to say anymore.
only make believe that you love me. Others find peace of mind in pretending. Couldn't you, couldn't I, couldn't we make believe our lips are blending in a phantom kiss or two or three? Might as well make believe I love you, or to tell the truth, I do.